Hello, good people. Precious S. Carter here. Hope all is well. I hope you had a good day. First off, if you are not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and go ahead and hit the like button. And then share this out on this platform and any other social media platform that you have and help me get my subscribers up. I give really good content. But today, I wanted to talk to you about boundaries. This is just all based off of the a conversation that I had with one of my clients today. But if you know me at all, if you follow me on any social media and have been for any amount of time, you will know that boundaries is something that I talk about a lot. I think they are extremely important. The way that I like to describe boundaries is by thinking about like your home, the place where you live, or the place where, like, um, a jurisdiction, a state, a city. Um, I like to think about it in terms of that so that it makes really, so that it's extremely clear what it is that they are, what the purpose of them is for, and why you need to establish them. So I like to start off by giving the definition of a boundary. And basically, a boundary is a line that marks the limit of an area. It's a defining line. It is a place that lets you know that this is a safe or legal place to go, and this is not a safe or legal place to go. Within the boundary, you have jurisdiction. That is a legal term. Um, you have the ability to control what happens inside of your boundary. So when you're thinking about relationships, there are the limits and they're the rules that we set within ourselves for our relationships. So the ability to say no is important when you are establishing boundaries. And so I like to describe boundaries like my favorite way to describe it is like a home. I own a home, and inside my home, the people that are pretty much free to go everywhere in my home, aside from my, now this is just a lie because my kids and my dog come in my bedroom all the time. But my bedroom is a very personal space in my home. And typically speaking, the people that would be permitted to go into my bedroom would be myself or my husband. Um, and so that is like the inner circle of the boundaries that I have within my home. And then next, there might be my kitchen. So I'm going to kind of reverse engineer boundaries. So I have a neighbor, and I love my neighbor. I think she's an extremely kind person. We have good talks. We go out to eat. We talk about life. Sometimes we talk about family, marriage, work, anything. But when it comes to my home, my neighbor typically is permitted in my backyard. Like there was a certain point where she and I would meet at the boundary, like at the borderline of our homes. When we first met, COVID was going on and we didn't know each other. I had just moved up there. And so we kind of talked right at the edge of our line. Now, as we got more familiar with one another, she became more comfortable with coming in my yard and I allowed her to. And I became more comfortable in coming into her yard. And so we started off our relationship by sitting on each other's patios or maybe by sitting outside on the fire pit. And there was nothing wrong with our relationship at any stage of it. It was still a solid relationship. It was still a good relationship. We had respect for one another. We were getting to know one another. We talked to each other about all kinds of things, but our boundary was at the first at the boundary of our home, and then the patio, and then our fire pit. Even to the point when we first met, we used to go to, like, when I was at her house and I had to go to the bathroom, I would go to my house. And when she was at my house and she had to go to the bathroom, she would go to her house. It really was just that simple. As we got to know each other and we became a little bit more comfortable, the first boundary that we crossed was that we would go to the bathroom in each other's house, right? Go to the bathroom, handle your business, wash your hands, come back out. That's what we did. And our relationship was just fine. There was nothing wrong. I didn't feel like she didn't like me whenever we were just standing at our yard. She didn't feel like I didn't like her whenever we were just sitting at the fire pit and going to our own bathrooms. The more and more comfortable I got with her, I allowed her to come and open my refrigerator and get something to drink versus me going to get it to her for her, and vice versa. And then I have people that are my neighbors that I have perfectly good relationship with that haven't even been allowed into my yard yet. Like we will talk in the front of my house, at the mailbox or at the edge of my driveway, or maybe we'll speak to each other as they're driving by, and vice versa. I have neighbors that have not allowed me in their home. And I don't think that they dislike me. I don't think that it is wrong of them not to let me in their home. It's just a boundary. We haven't decided whether or not we want to move any further in our relationship. And then there are some people, like, like I said earlier, my kids can come into my bedroom, my dog can come in my bedroom, but pretty much I don't want anybody else in my bedroom. And somebody actually did cross that boundary in helping me move a couple of things. My sons were bringing in the things that needed to go in my bedroom, and like he walked in my bedroom, and I was like, no, that's not, no, it's not okay. I don't want you in here. And I think that we have to get comfortable with that. So now we kind of have like a good outline about what boundaries are. I'm not going to be on here long. I'm really tired. I'm just participating in this challenge to go live every day in November. And so far, so good. Day two. You know what I'm saying? So, anyway, we now know that boundaries, we know what boundaries are. Next, let's talk about how we utilize boundaries. Number one, let's just say we're talking about boundaries in a relationship. And let's talk about boundaries in, like within your business relationships. So I have a business partner. I have a couple of business partners actually. And in our relationship, like we have great relationship, right? But we do have boundaries on like time of day that we can call, things that we can discuss, um, what, when we can interject, what we can interject, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate. I have very strong, and another thing that I think that people need to have more boundaries about is their money. I have very strong boundaries in money. I just simply don't loan it. If you need it and I have it and I want to give it to you, I'll give it to you. But if I don't want to give it to you, even if I have it, I no longer say I don't have it. I just simply say no. Why? I don't say I don't have it because I think that my words are powerful. I know that my words are powerful. And I'm not about to confess lack over my life just because I don't want to give you money. It doesn't make sense to me. Um, that's another thing that you can have boundaries in. And I think most people lack the ability to say no because we don't we're too afraid of people. Like we always want to people please, and usually when you're doing things to people please, and to keep the peace, so to speak, you're actually starting a war on the inside of you, and it's not really a good thing. I have boundaries when it comes to my children. I, in order, when my children were younger, in order for them to go over anyone's house, like I had to physically meet the parent, I had to talk to the parent, I needed to know if the parent was going to be home. I needed to be able to communicate with the parent. That's the boundary. If I couldn't do that, my kids couldn't go. Now, boundaries, we know what boundaries are. We know some different scenarios on when we need to have boundaries, and we have some different ideas on how to utilize boundaries. But number one, the thing, in order for you to have effective boundaries, I think it's important that you do a couple of things. The first thing that you have to do is, once you have decided what the boundary is, it is important that you communicate the boundary, right? Because there are a lot of times people have these boundaries in their head of what they do and don't like, what they will and won't accept, what they do and don't expect from people. And it's a mental thing that they like have it in their mind, but they have never done the work of actually communicating that to another person. I think the reason that we don't do this is, number one, sometimes we think that people have the same outlook or background that we have, and they think that the boundaries that we have they should be the same boundaries that other people have. And in all actuality, that's just not the case. There are different cultures, there are different, there are just different reasons, different levels of communication that people might have, different cultural backgrounds and aspects that they might have, that they might simply think completely different than you. And so it is your responsibility to make sure that once you have decided on what boundaries need to be put in place around your money, around relationships, around your children, around conversations, in dating and marriage, like in whatever, it's important that you communicate the boundary. Another reason that people don't communicate the boundary is because they're simply scared of people. They think that if they communicate a boundary, they are going to lose the relationship, which it's okay. Because if you have a boundary that you want to have honored, and if someone can't accept that you have boundaries, um, and they won't honor them, they're probably not a good relationship for you anyway. So after you communicate the boundary, the next thing that you need to do is you need to enforce the boundary. So I was talking to one of my potential clients today. She's not a client yet. And I do this kind of a consultation where I ask these questions and I try to figure out if I am what you need and if you are somebody who I can tolerate working with, because I don't like working with everyone, because I pour a lot into the people that I coach, and I tend to get really involved, and I want to make sure that you are just involved as me. So we're having this conversation, and she was like, "You know what? Years ago, you told me that you had this boundary with your husband, and I thought it was so powerful." She said, and then she told me what the boundary was. And I'm like, "Yeah, like," and at the end of the day, a lot of women don't have boundaries in their relationship, and they don't communicate the boundaries in their relationship because they are afraid that somebody will break the boundary and then they will be in a position to have to enforce it. That leads me to number two. Like I said, you have to enforce the boundary. So if I tell you that you can go in my house and you can go to my bathroom, but don't go in my refrigerator, don't go messing around on my fireplace mantle, don't go peeking in my children's room, I mean that. And if you decide to go to the bathroom and then on your way back, you just peek your head into my bedroom, I'm gonna have a problem with that, and I'm gonna let you know. If you decide to open up my refrigerator, I'm gonna have a problem with that, and I'm gonna let you know why. Because it's a matter of respect, and it doesn't matter the reason that I have the boundary. That's not your business. It's your business. If you respect our relationship, for you to honor the boundaries that we have in place until or unless we decide to establish a deeper connection and to allow each other a deeper level of access to one another's personal lives. So once you establish the boundary, communicate the boundary, and enforce the boundary, it's just going to be important that you, um, that's not what I was going to say. Those are the three things. I think you have to establish them. I think you have to communicate them. And I think you have to enforce them. The reason, this is what happens when I don't take notes, right? Because I be getting off track. And I didn't feel like going to dig up old notes on boundaries because I know this stuff. But the reason that people don't enforce boundaries is because 9 times out of 10, they are afraid of people. They are people pleasers and they are afraid of losing people. Um, I have a situation with someone that I'm working with that I told them that they needed to establish boundaries and limits. Boundaries are for other people and limits are for yourself. This is a person who is taking care of a loved one, and it is starting to just become overwhelming for them because the loved one is kind of taking advantage of the situation, not following all of the guidelines that are being given to them, and therefore putting this individual in a bad situation. I'm like, well, first off, you have to establish some limits for yourself. And what I mean by that is, a lot of times we people, humans, especially those of us in the caregiving space, we kind of like get empowered. We feel invigorated by seeing other people do well, by seeing other people healthy, by seeing other people successful. And sometimes we will insert ourselves in situations that we have no business being in, and it becomes a drainer for us. Those people become like vampires to us. And what that is doing is opening up the door for us to be resentful towards them. And that's not really something that we want when we set out to do a good thing for someone. Right, right. So boundaries are for boundaries are for others as limits are to us. So for example, if we have decided that we have this financial boundary and we are not going to uh, loan money, so the boundary would be to the person like, okay, I'm not going to loan money. I don't loan money. So but then you have a situation come up and a person needs like, $1,000, and you have it to give to them, or let's just say that your boundary is that you have decided that you're not going to give more than, $100, and your very best friend needs $1,000, and you're like, okay, here's $100 because that is the boundary of which I will loan money. Um, you, in all of your heart, because you are a person that's a giver, you are a person that wants to see people do well. You are a person that wants to see people set up for success. But now you have to honor the boundary that you set. You have to honor the word that you gave to yourself and others. You have to keep the promise that you made to yourself, and you have to set a limit because there is a reason for boundaries. Boundaries keep things safe. Boundaries say as long as we operate inside of this set of parameters, our relationship is going to be safe for both you and me. Because what happens when you loan somebody $1,000 and they don't pay you back? You're pissed off. You don't want to talk to that person. Or that person is now ducking and dodging you, and you can't even have a relationship with that person because they're avoiding you because they don't have the money to pay you back. That's personally like why I set my boundary around money. I was tired of relationships with people to where like I wasn't even thinking about the money, and um they were, upset about it. They were embarrassed about it. They didn't have it to pay back. And so they were avoiding me when really I'm just calling you because I want to talk to you. And so now I just don't lend money. If I have it to give and I want to give it to your cause, then I will. If I don't, I won't. And I expect you to respect that because our relationship should be more valuable than money. So yeah, communicate, establish your boundaries, communicate your boundaries, and enforce your boundaries, and set limits for yourself. So my name is Precious Carter. I am a life coach, a speaker, a teacher, and a trainer. I actually just opened up my one-on-one coaching just last week, I believe. And so I have a link in my bio on Instagram, which is instagram.com/, Precious S. Carter. Precious S. Carter. Everywhere you go, you can find me. But you can go ahead and click the link in my bio. My consultations for a limited time are going to be free, but after that, they will go back to regular price. Um, and so, yeah, if you want to have a conversation with me about what your goals are and to see if there is something that I can help you with, then I would be happy to do so. Otherwise, I ask that you like this video. I ask that you subscribe to this channel. Let me know if there's anything else that you want me to talk about during this next 30 days of going live here on YouTube. And I would like for you to help me to get to these 500 subscribers so that I can quit going live on this computer because it's so much easier on the phone. Okay. I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. There it is.